Well, here we are back at Women Who Encounter Jesus and our look at the mother of Zebedee's sons, who we've named Salome because she's listed in the list of women who went to the tomb and also to the cross. So that's how we get her name. Her name is not mentioned in this story in Matthew 20. Matthew 20, verse 20 says, Then the mother of Zebedee's sons came to Jesus with her sons, and kneeling down, she asked a favor of him. What is it you want? He asked. And she said, Grant that one of these two sons of mine may sit at your right and the other at your left in your kingdom. Yesterday, or in the last session, we were talking a little bit about the pride that motivated James, John, and Salome, because pride gets in our way. And I talked a little bit about pride, but I thought after I listened to what was on the session yesterday, I thought, I really didn't explain that very well. I didn't really go into detail like I should have, because people have such a misunderstanding of pride. It's a wonderful thing to take pride in yourself, to be happy with who you are, to feel worthwhile in God's eyes. We're all valuable to God. So pride has nothing to do with feeling worthless. Like the opposite of pride would be humility or being humble. But being humble doesn't mean that I feel like I'm a nobody, like I'm worthless. It simply means that I have a right understanding of where I stand in terms of my value. I'm very valuable to God. I am equal in value with every other human being. God loves all people. So when we let our pride raise up, now not the nice pride that means, I'm proud of myself, I did a good job today. Not that pride. The bad pride, the sinful pride, let's call it, okay? That is when I take my desires, when my idea, my desire, my control, my feelings, I act as though they are more important than what God thinks or than what other people think or need. My feelings are valid and valuable, but so is the next person's. Okay? My needs are fine for me to express. That's what I should do. That's healthy. But when what I want and what I need and what I think excludes others or hurts others, then my pride is getting in my way. So I think it's a matter of balance more than anything else. And also a misunderstanding of that word, pride. Because I think when we have proper pride, we live knowing that God is in the place of honor and power and in control. And our place is even with all people. Okay? So we're no better than anybody else and we're no worse than anybody else. So sinful pride then is acting like I am better, or what I want is more important than what God wants from me or that what other people want. We don't always see or admit that pride is underneath a lot of actions. Here it's pretty obvious when the mother of Zebedee comes to Jesus and requests this. It's obvious that she's after power for her sons, ambition for them. She wants the best for them. And when that goes over the edge and becomes more important than all the other disciples. So why should her two sons be more important than all the other disciples who followed Jesus? But that's what she's asking. And that's why we know it's motivated by pride. But so often, a lot of things we see around us are motivated by pride, and we don't think of them that way. I was thinking particularly of something like road rage. What is road rage all about? It's more than just the anger. It's that I think where I've got to be is more important than where you've got to be. So get out of my way. How dare you pull out in front of me or stop suddenly or whatever you do. Road rage is definitely based in pride. If you get down to the root of it, it's more than just anger. And so is texting while you're driving. Because what it means is, I know I'm not supposed to text while I drive, but it's different for me. I've got more important texts to send right now, and everybody else can, be in danger because what I need to do is more important than everybody else. Greed is the same way. It is a sin in itself, but yet is it motivated in pride? I want to be better. I want to be more influential. I want to be, I want to have more money, more wealthy than other people. Gossip is another thing that I think is often rooted in pride. Gossip itself is a bad thing to do, but if you look deeper, is it rooted in pride? Am I trying to pull somebody else down so that I look better? It's all about me, what I think, what I want. Um, Taking offense too often, there are people that just get their nose out of joint at everything, isn't it? It's like, how dare you say that to me? Uh, so that's when what they think is more important than what you think, and that makes them take offense. Um, when you want to desperately just win the argument, it doesn't matter whether you hurt the other person, you're going to win, you're going to be on top. I think that's pride motivated. Unforgiveness is sometimes very pride motivated. I'm not going to forgive him because I was hurt. It's all I centered. Where God is telling us we need to forgive for ourselves so that we are free in our relationship with him and free in our relationship with others. It doesn't mean we let the other person off the hook. But when we hold back our forgiveness, it's pride motivated. We think our feelings and our unforgiveness is more important than what God tells us because God says you must forgive. So unforgiveness is really pride oriented. A controlling attitude is also pride oriented. I have struggled with this a lot in my life. When I feel uncomfortable because I'm not in control of what's going to happen, I don't know what's going to happen next, or I'm not sure, and I'm praying and I'm wanting God to act. And in a way, I try to control God almost. And controlling other people or trying to is pride motivated because it's what I think they should be doing is more important than what they're doing. What I think God should be doing is more important than what he thinks. So when we get into this feeling of wanting to control everything, we're really operating on pride. When we try to go it alone, when we refuse to talk to other people or let them know how we're feeling, or maybe even we're not even honest with God, but especially not when we refuse to let other people help us, that's pride. And it gets in our way. It causes us to act in a way that God doesn't want us to act because we're so afraid somebody's going to see something bad about us that we don't want to share our feelings or our events with other people. We don't want to tell them what's actually happening. We're ashamed. So we keep it inside because that somehow is going to make it so nobody else knows it won't be as bad. That's pride. And what we give up when we operate on pride is we give up the help that God is sending us through other people. If we are talking to someone trusted about problems in our life, then that person can help us. But if we hide them all because of our pride gets in the way of God sending us help. So we're kind of refusing the help of others whenever we try to go it alone. I know I have a tendency to try to do too much by myself, and I don't say, could you help me? Or if somebody says, do you need some help? Oh, no, I'm fine. I can do all this myself. That's pride. Maybe God sent that person to help you. Maybe that person needs to help you. And that's what God is using him for. We don't know because we shut the door on that so often. I often think even about people who are getting married when they care more about the wedding than they do about the marriage. That's pride. They want to feel good about their wedding. It's all about that. But what about the marriage? What about the marriage? That's what God cares about. When you're acting like a martyr, oh, woe is me. I know I've got it worse than everybody else, but I can't help it, and feel sorry for me. And that's pride. We want to be the center. We want our problems to be bigger than everybody else. No one could have a problem as big as me. I know it's terrible, but I got to do it, no matter what. Nobody else is going to do it but me. That deep down inside, that's pride talking. I know it doesn't seem that way at first, but in many, many times, it really is pride. And actually, I had a friend who was very self-conscious and very shy, and she felt that eventually that was based in pride because God didn't want her to be that pulled back and that closed off. And when she went into a room, she thought everybody was looking at her. Everybody cared about what she was wearing. Everybody, no one wanted to hear what she was saying. I think all of those things, she was protecting herself because of pride. So pride causes us to do actions that are actually destructive. And I think that's partially what this means in Proverbs. The verse we were reading in the last session was Proverbs 16. And let me read that one right now again so we can remember what it says. Proverbs 16, 18 to 19. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. So, what are we saying in that? We're saying then that it's destructive. Pride is destructive. Better to be lowly in spirit along with the oppressed and to share in the plunder with the proud. He's saying, again, it's almost like saying the first shall be last and the last shall be first. It's not always best to make number one, the most important. And again, I want to be clear that doesn't mean you don't take care of yourself. It doesn't mean you're not valuable. It doesn't mean you should act like you're worthless. That's the opposite end of the Titanic. Pride and humility need to find that balance where we are happy to be who we are and know that we're valuable and worthwhile, but we don't let that get in the way of our relationship with God and our relationship with others. Because the minute it does, we're headed for destruction. And in some ways, self-destruction, because we are keeping help from ourselves that God has intended for us because we're too proud to accept it. And so pride can go before a fall in a lot of ways. And a haughty spirit, I kind of like that word, haughty spirit. If you think of it that way, then you really realize that it's not such a great thing to have. I'm better than everybody else, That kind of a haughty spirit is something that God detests. He loves us all, and he wants us all to treat each other the way we would want to be treated. And that is true humility. The golden rule is a good example of true humility. So pride leads us to a fall can also mean that it can cause dissension among other people around us. When we're too proud, we don't have the greatest of relationships with other people. We cause problems. And in this case, it caused a lot of problems. Think of the destruction that could have taken place if Jesus hadn't intervened. Let's go back to the story in Matthew where he says, "What is it you want?" he asked of Salome. And she said, "Grant that one of these two sons of mine may sit at your right and the other on your left in your kingdom." "You don't know what you're asking," Jesus said to them. "Can you drink the cup that I am going to drink?" "We can," they answered. And Jesus said to them, "You will indeed drink from my cup, but to sit at my right or my left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those for whom they have been prepared by my Father." He doesn't exactly rebuke them, but he definitely tells them they're on the wrong track. He's saying, this is not something even I'm caring about. The Father has a plan for this. I'm leaving that to him. So why are you getting involved in this? But watch what happened immediately after. When the 10 heard this, that means the other 10 disciples, they were indignant with their two brothers. They were mad. And I don't blame them, because these two were putting themselves first and not caring about the other disciples. And they were a band, a band of brothers. Jesus called them together and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you." When pride gets involved, power is misused. And that's what he's saying here. This is the way the Romans act. They would have lived at that time when Romans were in power. This is the way the Romans act. The highest official, he lords it over the one under him, and so that one goes to the next one lower and lords it over those people. Everybody is flaunting their authority and using their power, misusing their power. Why? Because of pride. Because they want to be the best. They want to be the leader. They want to be the big one. And as their superior gets down on them, then they lord it over the one under them, and so on. It's a top-down mentality. Jesus is operating from a bottom-up mentality. He's telling them, you need to be something different from the world. Not so with you. He's saying these people are violent, they're corrupt, they are rulers that are oppressing people underneath them. No, this is not the way we act. I feel like that's the way I've said to my kids so often when they're naughty. Wait, we don't act that way, He's saying to them, not so with you. Not so with you. Instead, this is verse 26, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. Whoa. Well, that's backwards, Jesus. Okay? If you're going to be great, You got to be a servant. If you want to be first, you want to be last. But listen to what he says about himself. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Wow. Jesus is saying, hey, look at me. Do you think I came here so people could tell me how wonderful I am and, praise me and put me up as a leader? And every time they wanted to make him king, he ran away into the wilderness. He didn't want to be an earthly king. That wasn't his plan. That wasn't part of his mission. His mission was to be a servant. Servanthood. And he was going to demonstrate that servanthood as soon as they got to Jerusalem. In so many ways, he was going to demonstrate that servanthood. This is his message over and over and over to the disciples, to Salome, and to us. He's saying, if you want to be great, be a servant. Understand that you're no better or no worse than anybody else. And even as a leader, lead by digging in and helping people. Don't lead by oppressing and forcing people underneath you to do what you want. Get down and see, what do people need? How can I help them? That's what Jesus did. He came to serve, not to be served. So servanthood is a big issue now. And he's been teaching this to the disciples right along, but still they're not totally getting the message. But here was a perfect teaching opportunity for him to show them not to push themselves ahead, that they needed to be a servant. So where was Salome when Jesus said all this? I don't know, because he had called the disciples together, so we're not sure. But I'm sure she found out about it. And I wonder how she felt, knowing that she had pushed her sons forward and put Jesus in a position where he had to call his disciples together, rally the troops, get everybody back together again, and put things straight. I'm sure that she didn't intend to cause such an uproar. It's just that she was thinking of her sons, more so than she was thinking of Jesus' mission and God's plan for salvation, which is so much more important than whether or not her son is on the right or the left of Jesus. And eventually, she will find out that, because she will be a witness to both the resurrection and both the crucifixion and the resurrection. I think it's in... Yeah, let me find where it is, because I had it here a minute ago. Let's see. Is it in Matthew? I don't know. Eventually, she will go to the cross, because we've read that verse before. Who was at the cross? Mary Magdalene, and Salome. She is going to be the one who gets together the spices on Saturday and is ready to go to the tomb on Sunday. And then she will actually see an angel, and she will understand what is so much more important than her sons being at the right or the left of the kingdom. So that's a story of Salome, mother of the sons of Zebedee. And I think she's had a lot to teach us as far as the way we operate with pride and how we get ourselves in trouble and cause a lot of problems that way. And Jesus is straightening us out by saying to us, if you want to be great, be a servant. Be a servant. Well, think about that today. Think how you can be a servant and how you can reach out to someone else in love. Have a great day.